guy who does the cartoons. They're from they're not originals or anything, but they're from when I was in college. I did a trip to Europe, and this piece of art hangs in Amsterdam, and so they have the license to reproduce posters from that
Oh, okay.
museum. So they're museum prints of Liechtenstein, who I've just loved as it forever.
Those are cool.
It's panels, so it says it goes from this way across. It's backwards for you, so it goes. As I opened fire, I knew why text hasn't hadn't buzzed me. If he had, and then it comes over here, the enemy would have been warned. And the last one is that my ship was below them. So it's
Huh.
a it's a fighter plane coming in. Anyway,
That's super
I
cool.
just
No,
love I love his stuff. He does these, he did cartoons, but he blew them up. They were huge. These
mhm.
panels were 6 by 8 in
That's
the
huge.
museum.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so it's really cool. He was the first one that sort of took that cartoon newspaper print type imaging
Mhm.
and then reproduce it by painting it. So it was cool. He's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that I just noticed the artwork. I'm like, those are cool. Those are
Yeah.
dope. But
Yeah. No, they followed me since college. So I bought them
dang.
when I was I guess it was near my end of my college career. I did a semester abroad at in Oxford, and
Mhm.
I traveled around a little bit, and that's where I got them. Are you a cartoon
That's
fan? Are
awesome.
you or a
I
comic
love
book?
cartoons.
Yeah.
I love cartoons. I have quite a few comic books. We have a store here that does like comic books. So you walk in and they just have like this massive row of like comic books,
Yeah.
like ranging from different prices. They're alphabetized, so it's like I like to
Wow.
go in there and just like pick a few here and there. So I have like some random Wonder Woman ones and some random Green Lanterns and some
Wow.
random what else? I just have a bunch of random ones because they were in like the 99 or like the 50 cent area. So I'm like, oh, these are cool. I like the art in these, so I just kept
Yeah.
those. And then I had a buddy that gave me some. He was a collector, and so I bought some really cool Captain America ones off of him because Captain America is like my favorite Marvel hero.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
um, big fan of comics and cartoons. I mean, I grew up on cartoons, so
What about Ren and Stimpy? Did you like Ren and Stimpy? No?
I want to say yes. I want to say yes, but I'm trying to remember what Ren and Stimpy looked like.
No, it's before your time then. It's the Chihuahua and the cat that are friends.
Oh
And
yeah. I remember this.
well there's a so in the first season, I think there were 8 shows and they're
Hmm.
15 minutes long. So they do 2 and that'd be the thing. And then
Yeah.
they canned the creator for being too wild and too crazy. And then Ren and
What?
Stimpy went off the rails. It went terrible. But the first 8 or 10 episodes are the best cartoons ever. And
It was a cartoon sitcom. That's why.
yeah, and it changed cartooning forever because all this stuff where they zoom in to super extreme stuff in cartoons now, and you'll
Hmm.
see Paramecium and doing stuff, and then they'll zoom back out. That was all Ren and Stimpy. They were the first ones really to do it.
Yeah. Didn't weren't these
Oh,
two on like some kind of psychedelics too? Like
oh,
that's why they always had like colored eyes and things like
well, they
that.
do. Well, no. Anyway, but there's a killer movie called Happy Happy Joy Joy, the story of Ren and Stimpy, and it's about how it how it fell apart. It's all about the creator John Kay and all these people that worked with him, and so then the studio fired him. Well, this whole crew of people had to try to figure out how to keep on going, without the main dude, and they went on for maybe a couple seasons, but it was a terrible show after they lost him. Anyway, it's a
Oh,
cool piece of lore, cartoon lore. You got to go check it out. The first 8 episodes are some of the best cartoons you've ever seen in your life, and now they broke the box, right? They broke totally how you do cartoons, and now everybody does what they do. This weird
Hmm.
extreme angles, and they just set up camera angles in the cartoon where you're like, what the hell is going on here? And then when it starts moving, you're like, oh my god, right? And so they were the masters of setting up really bizarre angles. Obviously they're not camera angles because they're drawing, but anyway, it's badass.
That's cool. No,
Go watch
yeah,
season one. Go watch season one. You'll lose your mind. There was a
yeah. I
there's
probably only watched like season 4 and 5 when I was a kid, looking at the
Oh, see,
dates of when they
they
came
were
out.
trashed. Yeah, it was just fart jokes and pimple humor. But the
Yeah,
first opening, episode 1 through 8, there's one called Space Madness, which is absolutely one of the best cartoons ever made. And
the
it's
sci-fi space madness, the boy who cried rat.
no, it's just Ren and Stimpy. It's just an episode of Ren and
Oh
Stimpy.
no, is that the episode, the sci-fi space madness?
Oh, it's probably two. Yeah, there's probably they did them in they were each 15 minutes long, so they do one, have a break, and do another.
Okay,
But
and then they just have like the hard.
Space Madness
Okay,
is unbelievably funny. It's just you will not, and some of the lines from it go on forever. You'll be saying them for the rest of your life. I mean, they're iconic. Anyway, there's
there's
our little
probably
detour.
yeah, no, there's probably I remember this cartoon, but I remember watching it at the probably towards the back end of it,
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
beginning
and
of it.
so
So
it was. It survived, but it was just crude humor. At the beginning of the show, it's this creative element that you will not see anything like it even now. They broke the mold. Anyway, but very cool show.
that is super cool. Well, John, you talk about cool cartoons, but you also talk about a lot of other cool stuff.
Yeah,
So for all the people listening, they heard in the intro, I introduced a few of the books you've written: The Sex Index, Here Comes the Darkness, The Third Glass, and
hmm
many, many more.
okay.
Um, you're the creator of the popular blog, The Whole Parent.
Uh-huh.
And just a little bit more about you. You have two kids. One who you had when you were 38, the other when you were 40. You're a single dad who lives and writes in Austin, Texas. You've published again several books about parenting and divorce. All of them can be found on Amazon. I have that link down in our show notes. And you currently make your living coaching men and women in relationships and divorce. And John is allegedly your happiest in a relationship and playing tennis and music with your two kids. So
True.
that's a little bit about you.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us anything else you want us to know about you. I know there's a lot here. You can click your
Yeah. No.
link. You see your
No,
author
that's great.
page, Love on
Yeah.
the Air podcast, your life coaching, your off parent IMBD page,
Yep.
and some stuff, some posts to manage anxiety from the Whole Parent blog, some relationship things on the Whole Parent blog, some self-care things on the Whole Parent blog, just a bunch of just
Yeah.
amazing good quality stuff. So
Thank you. Thank you.
take
Yeah.
us away
Been.
here.
Thank you, and I'm excited to be here. I'm not actually a young dad anymore. I'm just 60. I've got a
i
20 year old and a 22-year old. So, um, but
I think people get that confused all the time because our last name is Young, so it's
oh,
kind
there
of
you go.
it's a play on words.
I see. Well, yeah, you fooled me then. You got me.
It works.
Uh,
We're also young. I mean, we're both
there you
also
go.
almost 30.
Well, I'm
So
young. Yeah, I'm 60 young.
you
Anyway,
are, you are.
so yeah, the what happened for me? I've been an artist and a creative person my whole life, writer, musician. Um, in high school and college, I got a degree in English, expecting to matriculate and become a worker. Hopefully someday I'll write the great American novel, but I'm still working on it. Um, but of course, then I had two incredible children, and I really subscribe to something called attachment parenting, which is where you sort of let the experience of becoming a parent uh, completely morph you as well as the new children. And attachment parenting believes that it's through the connections that we have with our kids, tight healthy, trusting relationships with our children established early on, but continuing through their whole lives, that attachment is what creates a positive and optimistic parenting relationship later on. Early, when they're toddlers, they're our entertainment. They're amazing.
Yes.
Both parents really, in a marriage, I'd say for the first 5 to 7 years, we were just focused on, wow, these two little children that we'd created. It was
Mhm.
phenomenal, right? Our whole lives changed. But I think during the course of those years, we might not have paid enough attention to the relationship between the two of us. And so we focused mainly on being parents. They were everything that we, thought about, and they were our entertainment. They probably ended up being, what kept the relationship together even after things had started uh, fragmenting a little bit and not uh, working so great. Uh, so anyway, what happened for me, being a creative person, a musician, a writer, um, when my wife asked for a divorce, I wasn't blindsided that things were hard. I was blindsided that we were going to get a divorce. That was the part I was like, wait, what?
So
Because
how old were the kids, and how long have y'all been together? Had been together when she had asked for the divorce?
um, I think the kids were 7 and 9. They were
Okay.
getting ready. They were, I believe, in fifth and third grade. So
Okay.
my son is older. I believe he was in fifth grade. My daughter was in third. And it was
Okay.
towards the end of the school year. And, uh, and, and basically she, for whatever reason, she made some decisions probably out of her survival instinct to get a divorce. Um, what happened for me as a dad, because the law still in say 80% of the states in the US still gives the mom sort of the priority. Uh, and I knew that's where I was going. Um, it, it, it absolutely shattered my world. I was not ready. I didn't know that's where I was going. I did, kind of fight and work for about 5 weeks. I stayed in the house, and it wasn't that I was trying to convince my wife to stay, but I was trying to, one, I wanted to get the kids to summer break before we, broke the news to them.
Definitely.
And the school counselor was the person that finally got my wife to agree that that was probably a good idea. She just wanted me to leave, and I was like, I'm not, I'm not walking out. There's no way. So anyway,
Yeah.
but what happened was, Dad, so me that summer, the next thing I knew, I had, every other weekend with my kids instead of all the time. That was the biggest heartbreak. Um, but I also walked out of the house, the neighborhood, the whole routine. I played tennis at a nearby club 3 days a week. Well, that's gone. I lost the membership. I lost everything. Had to move in with my sister because I was in between, sort of major jobs. I was freelancing. And that event shook everything in my entire life. I didn't, I was already blogging. So I already had a blog that was about marketing and digital social media and things like that. So I started a blog right then when she first said that she wanted a divorce. And that one is called The Off Parent. So this one, when I launched it, it was totally anonymous. Today, there are some links to my books and things. There are ways to find out who I am, but that's
Yeah.
because my kids are older and it doesn't matter anymore. But when I launched it, you couldn't have Googled me and found it, right? It didn't.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
were no connections between me and that blog. But on that one, I really howled. I really let it out how painful it was for me,
Yeah.
and it transformed me. So I went, the writing of the blog is actually what changed kind of everything in my life. Um, Today, so about I'm going to tell you a little bit longer about that story. So
You're
about
good.
about a year and a half in, um, I realized something that I had been writing about on the blog already. So my blog is really me just trying to figure it out. It wasn't meaning to attack her. It was really just to unload what was going on for me. But what I
Which is
learned,
so important, like that, having that outlet and having that space just for like everyone
yeah,
listening. Like you have to find your thing. Like I'm a lot of the same way. A lot of my processing through, my situation with divorce and single parenting, co-parenting, all that stuff has been a lot of writing, has been blogging, has been this podcast, has been talking to really cool people like you, John, and just having that outlet there because you have
yeah,
to figure out a way to get it out. Because if not, then it ruins your world even more than it already is.
yep. No, it's true. And therapy's great.
Yes.
I used and still use Al-Anon a lot. I'm a adult child of an alcoholic, but going to
Yep. Same.
Al-Anon meetings has been a way that has really helped ground me when I'm not in a relationship and when I'm floundering. I can always
Hmm.
show up at a Al-Anon meeting with like-minded people who are just on the path to heal themselves. That's the thing about a
Yes.
Al-Anon is about healing yourself in relationship to people who are toxic, maybe around alcohol, maybe around drugs, doesn't matter what their addiction is, but it's our addiction to them
Yes.
that we are trying to heal ourselves from. And
Yes,
so,
I agree. I went to a lot of Alateen and
oh,
Al-Anon
good.
meetings
Yeah.
as a teenager and as a young adult, and I think those are great ways. You have to find that support group, you have to find that community, you have to find your outlets to get yourself to heal. You're healing, not healed. You're always healing. You're always becoming a better person. You're always working toward that person you want to be. But you have to do it with like-minded people and like-minded individuals to be
Yeah.
able to get there.
Yeah.
And you have to
Yeah.
find ways that work for you because everything's going to be different. Like I've done therapy. I did a specific therapy. I did forgiveness therapy throughout
Nice.
the early parts of my separation and divorce and whatnot. And that really, really helped because I wasn't just forgiving her. I was forgiving my biological mother and all these other parts that I
Oh,
didn't know I needed to heal. And that really just set off a lot of things. And podcast writing, everything, these were just all just super healthy ways that helped me like get it out and feel better about everything going on around me. So,
yeah.
anyways,
Well, so what happened was in the course of writing this blog, and I had posts that were really angry. I had posts where I was trying to figure it out. But ultimately, as you begin writing about this stuff, you can't just rail the whole time. So you begin to sort of self heal. And one of the premises that I understood maybe in the first year was when she would send a text that was angry and, you know, trying to be angry, trying to be divisive, and I would respond in kind, it would just escalate and then we'd be assholes to one another and it was no good for anybody. So, what
yeah,
I learned and what I kind of came up with was no matter what she sends me, I'm done. I'm not going to respond anymore with anger. I'm going to, and at this time, when I kind of figured it out on the off parent writing about it, but then I decided I would start a new blog with my name on it and it would be 100% positive. So I was going to try to take these experiences and find the lesson, find what I could learn from this adventure. Um, and about the seventh or eighth post of that blog, The Whole Parent, um, I met Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, and they picked my blog up, and it just exploded.
the
So
rest is history.
they picked up the whole parent after like just only 8 posts, and then it went to
Wow,
yeah, a couple 100,000 a month for a while. I mean, it was amazing. It's very
that's
different
really
now.
cool.
Um, but now I write like you do. A lot of it is a journal. I'm healing myself. I'm learning better ways of coping with a difficult co-parent. That's something I write a lot about. Dealing with my own maybe depression, um, mindfulness, and how to get out of some of the rat race that we do when we, especially as single parents, we're always second guessing ourselves. We're always, feeling a little bit guilty, wishing we could have done better. I know that I did the best that I possibly could. And I know that I put my efforts into even healing the relationship after she'd asked for divorce. Um, and the whole parent finding that perspective finally that really released I can release her from that anger and just focus on me and my children. It really changed my whole life. So
Absolutely.
something would happen. This was for about a year and a half. Something would happen, and it'd be like, all right, I kind of want to write the off parent post, right? I kind of want to get pugilistic and fight
Yeah.
back, but the bigger man and the wiser man would write on the whole parent and try to figure out the flip side. What is the positive that can come from this situation? And so I've been writing that one for about, I think, maybe 10 years now.
Wow.
And so just the nature of writing that much, I then, pull books together out of this writing.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and
With
it's
hundreds of posts, it's easy to pull stuff together. You just have to search back and copy
yeah,
paste and
what's
edit it
the
a little
topic?
bit. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, no, and that's something really cool. I've noticed a lot of books now are kind of going that way where they're kind of topic based. It's not really a story,
yeah,
at least in this realm of like parenting,
yeah.
divorce, dating, post divorce,
I
all these
try to
different
I've got
topics, all topic based.
Yeah, I've got two that are there. It's funny. So the two books that are more narrative are the two that came out of the off parent.
Mm.
So the two that came out of this struggling hardship. The first one's called The Fall of the House of Dad, which was sort of how my ex-wife went after me being able to own a house and threw me to the AG's office when didn't need to happen. And then the most recent one was another, it was a post, it was a summary post that I'd written on the off parent called, I think it was called Divorce Lessons. And I realized when I looked at that post, which was an index of all these other stories from the off parent, that it was a narrative. It was just the story. And so I just recently pulled that one out and put that one together called I believe it's called Divorce Lessons. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, like I said, you at the beginning, you have so many different books and topics on your blog, and
Yeah.
it's all over the place. There's so much information, and it's so cool because it's that firsthand perspective. It's something that you went through it. It's literally your story of how you went through it, overcame it, and you mentioned a lot of really cool things about how you got to a point where you were the off parent, where you were just wanting to, knuckle up, you know, fight fire with fire, but eventually came to the point of the whole parent, that whole journey of the off parent. You became from the off parent to the whole parent to where you wanted to, I'm actually going to take this, I'm going to take it on the chin, and I'm going to choose. You're making conscious choices to be
Yeah.
positive. I can honestly say I have gotten to that point where it took me nearly 2 years to finally, granted, the situation was very different for myself to where my ex and her now, I can actually say her husband. I couldn't say that for a while because
Yeah.
I didn't want to,
Right.
but where they got together pretty much same. Hopefully you can pick up on this. They got together same day that we got divorced. If you can catch my drift there,
Wow.
without
Yeah.
saying it, and they've been together since. well, maybe even a little bit before we officially divorced too, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
So we it took me a long time to really come around to the idea of this person that is now permanent in my life and my kids' life that didn't come in a positive light to begin
Yeah.
with.
It doesn't sound like it. Yeah.
So it was really hard to that point to where it took me take it's taken nearly 2 years, 2 plus years now to really come around to being able to even send him a text message.
Yeah.
And to the point where I've done enough on my end to say, hey, let's put the past in the past and try to move forward since this dynamic obviously isn't going anywhere. Let's try to make the best of it. We don't have to be friends, we don't have to be buddy buddy, but be let's be cool.
Yeah.
You know, and there never was that from him towards me, maybe a little bit, but there was always more towards me, toward him, more opposition, more like, touch my damn kids, I'm gonna knock your ass out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, know your place kind of thing.
Yeah.
Puff in the chest kind of stuff. But it took me a long time to really start to become where I'm at now, to become that better version to where my ex and I can text each other and say, hey, this kid forgot this at your place. Can you drop it off? Or can you drop it off? Or kind of
Logistics.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. To where before it was like, oh, I don't, it's fine. I don't want to bother. I don't want to go into
Yeah.
that.
So
So,
there's a couple things I want to share with you that I think are really helpful. And one is like a little maxim. It's like a little story about your ex. When you're divorced and you have children, one of the ways to frame it for yourself, especially in the early days when you're trying to get over the emotional craziness that's going on both sides, it's
mm-hmm.
crazy on both sides. Even if you're both as positive and trying as hard as you can, your whole world has been thrown uprooted, and you've got to readdress your whole approach, really, right?
Whole
And
approach.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so one of the things that I learned early on in one of my recovery classes that I took was you think of your ex as the convenience store clerk, right? The person at the 7-Eleven. You come in, you just want to pick up your Slurpee and be on your way. You don't really need to know about their day. You don't really need to know what's, troubling them. And the more you can put the kids and that relationship in that sort of transactional mode where it's really just about pick up, drop off, health, do we need to talk about expenses or the doctor or school, the co-parenting stuff,
Yeah.
and then be on your way, right? Take your
Exactly.
kids, be on your way. You don't need to get involved in what's wrong with her life, why she's not a great parent. All that stuff is not for you, really,
Yeah. This
right?
is, does it, yeah. No, yeah. No, I
We
hear
have to
you.
focus on ourselves and do the best that we can as parents. And then the last part, the other piece that I want to tell you is I do a lot of coaching, and I coach men and women, but I
Mm-hmm.
one of my sweet spots, of course, is men beginning the journey into divorce. Usually they call me, they're completely freaked out.
Yeah. Oh,
They
well,
have
because
no
it's
idea.
so scary. It's
It
so
is.
scary. It's like
Yeah.
you're terrified, especially if you have kids, because every man knows like what the courts are.
Right.
No matter what the situation, I was very lucky that I ended up having the upper hand. I filed all the paperwork. I'm the custodial parent.
Oh, wow.
I
Nice.
I would have 50-50 of my kids.
Good for you.
Um, because of the situation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
her being at a place where she could admit fault, and there was no reason for her to hold the kids or hold the kids from each other, because you know at the time when it happened we had a 5-month old,
Oh, my.
and we had a 5-month old, and it was 2021. No, it was 2021, and we had a 5-month old and an almost 4-year old. So
Wow.
kids are
That's,
super young, but
yeah.
it just ended up working out how it was supposed to. So I'm
Yeah.
very, very blessed. I'm very, very
Yeah.
lucky to be able to say that I was able to essentially win my
Right.
rights, that I even though I didn't have to fight for them, because I'm the one that held the held the leverage in my hand the whole time. But
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm trying to write more about and trying to understand a little bit more, dads, right? We have a different path in divorce. It's very different for fathers. And what
very
I
different.
believe is a strong man can hold the line even for the spinning out of control off parent, right? So even as my ex-wife was doing crazy stuff, I was able to settle down, get really solid in my own life and where I was going, and let her be this satellite that was spinning out. And I didn't have to respond to that. Really, all I had to pay attention to was my kids. And so I think dads can be stronger in a divorce. I know that I didn't get the time that I wanted with my kids because of the way my divorce went down. But what one of the side benefits of that is when I showed up for my kids, I was 110% every single time. There was no mundane, irritation at my children for being teenagers. I just was so happy they were there, right? So there's a little bit
Yes.
of that effect. But when I work with dads, it's really I think the process involves three really important steps. And the
Hmm.
first one is decoupling that rage and that anger from your ex partner, and learning that responding with to an angry text with an angry text is bad for the whole deal. It's bad for your
Hmm.
kids. It's bad for your ex, but it's really bad for you too, right? It
Yeah.
riles you up. So the first part of that whole process for me is detaching ourselves from the rage and the craziness of the ex-wife, focusing on the health of the dad, because I believe that the healthier we get, are you exercising enough? Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you drinking too much alcohol or abusing some other drugs? You know, you're going to need all your facilities.
Hmm.
Um, so building a healthier dad is one of the first steps in any of my coaching programs. I focus in on the dad and your plan. What is it that you want? Where are you going? How are we going to get there? Kids are second, and kids need a healthy parent. So the
Absolutely.
by focusing and learning to heal yourself, you're going to show up for your kids in the divorce in a much stronger, saner, less reactive way that can diffuse a lot of the BS that goes on, um, just with miscommunications. And even if your co-parent is angry and vindictive, by being a bigger man and a more positive, less reactive person, we can settle that down. We can keep a lot of that drama out of our kids' lives. And then the last part is really isolating the BS from the ex partner, realizing that there's no closure. We don't need anything from them. Closure's a myth. They're never going to say
Yes.
they're sorry. They're
Nope.
never going to say they made a mistake.
Mm-mm.
You have to let that whole piece go, and retain that focus on yourself, your health, and your relationship to your kids, and let the ex-wife have all of her own stuff, right? Whatever,
Yes.
even whatever she's dealing with her new husband. My ex is remarried. That's no longer my business, and I don't have anything to work out with her. So that was a big deal, right? If I don't have anything to work out with her, and she throws a shitty text my way, I have a choice. I can respond in kind and fire back, or I can go, wow, my ex-wife's being a little crazy today. I'm not responding to that. I'm going to respond to the question, was about next weekend, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to respond to the BS. I'm going to respond to the logistics, back to the convenience store clerk. All I need to know is, when am I picking the kids up? When am I dropping them back off? And what else do we need to talk about? That's pretty much it.
Pretty
Uh,
much. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I agree. And it's hard to get to that point where you do separate. It takes time. These things are going to take time, separating that anger and that rage, because there's going to be so much of it, especially
Yeah.
for men, just in general, because that is how men traditionally, that's how feelings come out. But a lot of men don't realize that anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is because there's an unmet need. There's something else controlling that anger. There's something you're now at, you went from A, you were at A, now you're at C. C is the anger, but you missed B. You're missing B, and you have to go kind of be able to take a step back and be like, okay, why am I angry? What is causing me anger? What is causing this rage and this intense emotion? Because you have to understand anger is a secondary emotion. So what is that first? What's that first thing right here that I'm not addressing, that's not being addressed? And then, going into that second part, you have to work on you. You have to work on yourself, because, you have to realize you probably weren't the perfect partner either.
Right.
At least for myself, it took two to tango, took two to get into the situation. There's things you didn't do, could have done, should have, would have, could have, all of that stuff. You have to go back and you have to fix yourself. You have to work on you. You have to essentially go back and start refilling your cup, because, like you said, those cups that you have to pour into are just yours and your kids now. You don't have a partner's cup to fill into. So essentially, you have more to fill in to less, but you have to make sure that yours is full by working on yourself, controlling your health, controlling your eating habits, your sleeping habits, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, which I feel is huge. However that looks for the individual,
Yeah.
your emotional health. You have to get all these things right. You have to figure out what it all looks like, because eventually you probably want to be into a new situation. You want to be, possibly remarried or into something new, or start dating again and back out there and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't really move forward and expect to have something better if you aren't bettering yourself along the way.
Yeah. And
So,
here's the piece that you learn, at least another one of these maxims that you learn when you start dealing with depression is I I had a very angry, abusive, alcoholic dad. So I didn't learn how to be angry. I learned how to avoid anger, right? So
yeah,
I'll
you
do
learn
almost
coping.
anything. I'm what is it called? It's what is it? It's not anger averse. I'll do anything to not get in a fight, right? So
Yeah,
I'll
you'll
lie,
avoid it. You'll
avoid
avoid
it.
it.
That's what I
Yeah.
want to do. Avoidance. But what happens is that anger, like you say, is going somewhere. And if you don't get a handle on it and you don't even figure it out, what it turns into is depression. So
Yes.
depression is anger turned inward. You're
Mhm.
angry instead of firing at the people who are making you angry, like you should shoot back. You're
Mhm.
you're blowing yourself away and feeling bad about yourself.
Mhm.
Uh, and that for me was the biggest healing was getting my anger up and out. So it's better. My therapist used to love to say, it's better to be homicidal than suicidal. Clearly, you don't want to do either, but
Yeah.
you want to point the anger where the anger's due, right? The person that
Mhm.
cheated or the person that you know did these bad things, whatever. That's where the anger resides. It should not be taken inward as we're at fault. And but truly for me it was my inability to even identify how angry I was really angry. I was also really sad, and usually sadness is what's underneath that rage. It's the sad that we don't want to touch, and rage is easy. It's easier to be mad and be angry on top of it, but if you sit and listen to that anger over time, you'll find out that underneath it is probably hurt, sadness, and that's that pivot of sort of coming out of it is determining that you're going to let that anger and energy fuel you, but you have to point it back where it is deserved, and quit pointing it at yourself, because we tend to point it at ourselves,
Hmm.
blame ourselves. We get angry, we don't quite understand it, and we just circulate that stuff in ourselves. Whereas if we got
Especially
angry,
men, especially
yeah,
men.
oh, especially if we got angry and we said, wow, that was really a crummy thing for this person to do. I'm angry at them. It changes the dynamic, and it gives us more
Hmm.
motivational energy to make our lives better, do better at what we're doing. Don't
Hmm.
do that. Whatever that was that angry co-parent did, don't do that. That's not, that's not the way forward. That's not
Hmm.
good for anybody. Anyway, I love the anger is really hard for men.
So hard.
It's either, but they can be polar, right? Either they're into it and they're really angry, that's a different kind of man, or maybe like you and I are, a little more sensitive. We get rageful and then we pull it back in and go, "Oh, this must be mine." But
Yeah,
some of it is not ours. Some of it is actually the person that's doing the dumb stuff.
100%. No,
And it's
100%. And I feel like
good
you have
to
to. I feel like for you and I, we're able to feel it, recognize it, and then ask ourselves why. Why am I feeling this? What is
yeah,
causing this? And I hate the word triggered, but it's like
yeah.
what is that trigger? Where is that trigger coming from? And I feel that so often finally now, like two plus years removed, to where I can be
Yeah.
like, okay, stop. What's what is this
So
right
your
now?
kid's now 6 and almost 2?
Uh Almost 6 and 2.5 now, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So it's been a long road, but
And how's it going with
um,
you? How are you doing?
after a while, at first it was rough. The hardest thing is probably adjusting to the silence. That's rough. And I just wrote
You mean
about it
silence
actually.
behind the kids?
Yeah,
Is that what
that
you mean?
quiet. Yeah, that
Yeah,
quiet where you go from all this noise and
yeah.
all this sound and all the stuff to not having it, to where it's like
When you're
I
a parent,
really
yeah, when you're a parent, that sound and noise is love. That's your world.
exactly.
And so when it comes
Exactly.
to just you in the apartment, it is devastating
Yeah.
to try to pull yourself back together and figure out, what's going to give you joy. And so I'm really glad. So did you start the blog and the podcast sort of at the same time, or how did you end up
So
down your creative path?
how it started for me was that I was already kind of blogging. I was doing baseball blogging and stuff because that's like where my passion lies. I love baseball. I've always loved
Oh,
baseball,
cool.
so I was just kind of starting and you know baseball blogging, making TikToks and things like this and that, and just baseball stuff. And then the divorce happened, and I actually didn't do anything creative for oh, it was a long time. It was maybe a year. I was going to school. I was working on my bachelor's. Um, I was working full time, working on my bachelor's. Going through this whole thing. So it was a lot, and just kind of trying to figure out myself. And then eventually, I stumbled back into it with my brother, and we've been talking about making a podcast for a long time, and it was trying to figure out the idea of like what do we want to do, and then all of a sudden one day I'm working at the credit union. I don't work there anymore, but I was working at the credit union, and one day it just like came to me, and I'm like, young dad podcast. We
Cool.
talk about just our life experiences, growing up with our grandparents, and growing up like separate, and our life experiences, me being divorced, single, going through all this, you being married with now 3 kids, and all this stuff, and just how it was so different but balanced, and how we can make it fun and entertaining and relatable to parents and dads and whatnot. So we've been going for this podcast for almost about a year now. I've been writing since I was in high school, between like short stories. I would write short stories in my English classes because the work was way too easy, and I would just write and write and write and
Yeah,
write. So I've
yeah.
always just written, and then turned into blogging in college, and just really random little blogs on like Blogspot that lasted for a few months at a time. So just a bunch of random little things that
Sure.
18, 19-year-old little naive me would write. And
That's you develop that inner voice that gets fed by writing, and it's been what saved my life, several times over. Um,
100%.
able to process this stuff for yourself without a therapist. For me, it's I write it down. When I start writing, it
Hmm.
starts coming out, and I organize it. When you put a language, this is really pivotal. When you put the language around your divorce, when you begin writing the narrative, these phrases and these ways that you have come to describe the divorce become your sort of framework for recovery, I think.
No, I
Because,
agree.
yeah, I mean, I can now see how my ex-wife and I, didn't have the skills relationship wise to navigate the period when our kids were finally back in school. We didn't have it. The love language book didn't exist yet. We didn't know any of that stuff, and we were very incompatible, actually.
Yeah.
We had great
Yeah.
kids, and for 5 and 7 years while they were growing up, that's all we had to focus on. And the minute we had to turn back to the relationship, I was willing and she was ready to do something else. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Same. So yeah, so we were married for about 5 years and together for a little bit more than that, and met in college and all that fun stuff. And
oh, you married in
yeah,
college?
yeah, we got married in college and whatnot. And so it was a path, and we were really young. We had our first kid. I mean, I was
Sure.
just barely 22. She was 2 weeks away from turning 20. So we were like super
Wow.
young, and um, all that fun stuff. But no, it's being on the other side of it. I'm looking back now in hindsight. After writing, one thing I publish and have been publishing on the website is the Well Balanced Dad Diet,
Oh,
which is like
cool.
which is a series of blog posts. It's a 12-part series. Each one's like
Nice.
1,500 words. So however that maths out, that was a lot of just tireless writing and a huge project, but it was super fun. I loved it. But now I'm posted six of those, and
That's awesome.
um, halfway through it, and it's really just been a really cool like inward reflection for myself of these different, like you're saying, this framework, this communication of things I've learned, things I've done, things I haven't done that I plan on doing, ways I've grown, ways I've healed and stuff. And it was a really great process to really realize, wow, I've come a long way. Like I've come
Hmm.
a really long way to get to now where I am. Fast forward through all of it to today, I am dating the most amazing woman. She's
Great.
incredible. She's beautiful. She's my lock screen. She's my favorite
Is your
person.
what?
She's
What
my
did you just
lock
say?
screen on my phone.
Oh, nice. Yeah, mine
She's
too. My
she's
dad,
just
my girlfriend, and my daughter, I guess. Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm not
they're
gonna
my
show mine, but she'd probably get mad at me if I should. Oh,
It's
that's
my
cute.
daughter and my girlfriend.
So we've
Yep.
been officially dating for a few weeks now, but it's been about a year of trying to figure everything out between her
Cool.
and I, and it's rough. As you know, dating after divorce, it's not easy. It's sucks, especially now in 2021, 2022, 2023 up until this point. It sucks. It
Yeah.
fucking sucks.
Yep.
I don't know how long
Yeah.
have you and
Dating
your
is
girlfriend been together?
uh October. It'll be 2 years. We're doing. In fact, I've been writing about it a bit. But I think this may be the first healthy relationship I've ever been in,
Same.
and that's pretty wild. Pretty wild to say. Um, and I knew I wrote a book. Well, the first book I wrote was called Single Dad Seeks, and it was the lessons that I learned sort of in those first 2 or 3 years of dating.
Mhm.
And it chronicles the first two relationships, uh, and what they taught me. So each time, especially when we come out of divorce, we're wounded. We're not our complete self. Um, I knew that I wanted to be back in a long-term relationship, and I knew it was going to take a long time. I knew
Mhm.
it was not going to be, you know, one and done. And so I was very deliberate in my dating, and even to the point when I met the woman that I'm dating now. Um, for me, dating is like a distraction, right? I don't want to be dating. I want to be in the relationship. The
Mhm.
dating is the part where you're trying to figure out, does this relationship have potential? Is this person crazy? Is this person sane? Do they have their act together? What are their kids like?
Mhm.
But the act of actually building the relationship is where I'm focusing a lot of my writing now. The
Mhm.
dating part is the first step. You definitely have to get through dating to even have the opportunity to start working on a relationship. But it's
100%.
the work on the relationship and communication skills and the ability to contain uh, things when they get out of balance. Like I'm a big fan of Brene Brown's Braving. Um, I think she wrote the book on, men with women. Something happens, the woman's upset. Men, we come in and we try to offer the answer. Oh, well, I've got the answer. I
We
know.
want to
Here's
fix
exactly
it.
what you
We
need.
want to fix
We
it.
want to fix
Want to
it. Yeah,
fix
yeah.
it.
And really, what we need to do is say, wow, I can see you're upset. I can't fix it, but I can stay here beside you and not run away from it and
Mhm.
just be beside you while you go through this hard time.
Yeah.
And that is really hard to learn how to do. I was raised by really by three women, so it's very hard for me not to lean into the fix
Mhm.
and really just stand brave.
Yeah.
So that's kind of another one of the things. You stand bravely beside your struggling partner and you say, I'm here, I'm safe, and I'll be here when you get through this.
100%.
The last part, though, is it's not me. You think I'm the target. You think I'm what you're really upset about. But this kind of anger is something going on a
Something
long
else.
time that you need to work out, right? I may
Yeah.
have forgotten to bring home dinner, but you shouldn't be mad for a week because that one thing happened. That's
I
not right.
agree. I agree. And I think part of that also goes back to, this is one thing I heard is in terms when it relates to more when you have a mate or a friend that's someone sorry, I say mate because I talk to a lot of people from Australia on the podcast. So
Oh yeah, nice. Okay.
but we one thing I learned about when it comes to like suicide prevention and talking to someone who's just like really down and having those feelings is three things. I learned to ask them one question that offers them three choices. Do you want space? Do you want to talk about it? Or do you want a distraction?
There you go.
To
That's
kind of
great.
help them when they're in that moment when they're feeling it, because you offer them those three different things and they have a very
And
clear
then the
choice.
last, yeah, I want to add the fourth choice because I think the fourth choice is: do you just want to be held? Do you just want to be
Yeah, of
touched?
course. When in a
And
relationship, yeah, I
yeah,
think that's so important. You mentioned love languages earlier, and I think it's so important to A, know your love language,
yeah,
but B, know all the love languages. And I've spent a lot of time writing about this, talking about this. Um, like I love the love languages. I think they're so interesting. I think they're so vital. Like they are
yeah,
vital. They are essential to knowing yours and knowing your partner's. But then also as part of that, you have to be willing to speak your partner's, even if it's not yours. Because not everyone, like for me, it's quality time and physical touch. For the girl I'm dating,
is that the balance? It's time and then touch.
it's time and then touch. Yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
want you to spend time with me. Other than don't buy me a gift, because if you buy me a gift, I'm gonna be so uncomfortable and I'm gonna
Wow.
cringe. I'm gonna feel really out of place.
Okay.
But instead of buying me a gift, that money that you would have spent, take let's go out to dinner or something, or let's go bowling, or let's go
Time. Yeah.
and
Give me the time. Yeah.
give me your time. I don't want your money. I want your time because
Yeah.
time is more valuable.
Yeah.
Um,
I've written a lot about, and I really believe time is the currency, right? Time is it.
100%. Hundred
Yeah.
percent. I
That's
heard
all
this
we got.
statistic the other day that you are going to spend 75% of the time, 75% of the time you will spend with your kids during their lifetime is by the time that they're about 13 years old. That
Yeah.
broke my heart
Yep.
because I mean it's
Yeah.
true.
Someone
I
that
look
was.
back and I think about it, and it's like, wow, that's
Yeah, I
true.
heard the one I heard that was a similar moment was, you're probably really only going to get about 15 Christmases, 15
Mm-hmm.
birthdays
Mm-hmm.
before they become the teenagers that don't want that kind of interaction. And when that period is done, hopefully you've done the attachment parenting so you have good heartfelt, energetic, emotional connections with your kids. Because if you don't, these kids that come out that are aggressive or have attention deficit problems and all that, and you don't have that attachment, it is really hard to discipline and stay connected at the same time to a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Because man, discipline, they're just like, I'm out. Then I'm out. And especially after divorce, dad, with only every other weekend on my side, I really had to play it political, or they'd be pissed off at me for, you know, I
Yeah,
don't have as much time. I don't even have the time to repair.
true.
So,
Yeah. So it's a fine line there, but we're getting close on time here. Granted, we could go into all these different parenting topics all day. I love all these different
yeah,
topics, and can't believe it's almost already been an hour. Um,
yeah.
it's a lot of fun when you're having fun.
Well, what are
Um,
you finding as the most important thing you learned after your divorce about being a dad? I know that I'm turning the tables on you a little bit,
a little
but
bit. I'm not used to that, but
yeah, but I know you have the story. I know you.
oh, 100%. I always have the story. I always have the story. Um, Most important thing I learned after my divorce about being a dad. I guess the best
And
way to
granted, you got
describe
a
it,
6 year old and almost a 2 year old, 2 year old and almost a 6 year old.
yeah, I would say that you have to, of course, you have to understand love languages, but you also have to understand like brain chemistry. You have to understand that a child's going to make their attachment web and their love tree by the time that they're about 6 years old. And you're either in or you're out. You're either all in as a parent or you're out. You can't be wishy washy. You can't be inconsistent. You can't be in between. Nothing like that. You can't. You can't. You have to be all
Yeah.
in.
Well, you're still in the building period then, so you still have time to do it right.
Yep, I'm almost out of the building period with my older one, of course, but that one's pretty locked down. That one's pretty solid. I'm not worried about her. I'm not worried about my younger one either. But
Yeah, good.
um, I think it's harder with the younger one because she does like also understand like my ex's husband is also a father figure. You know,
A what?
a father figure
Oh, okay. Yeah.
is like another like parental figure. Where my older one
Yep.
knows, she knows that you call him by his name. You don't call
Right.
him whatever your mom's calling him with the baby and things like that.
Right. Right.
Um, that's a whole nother thing. Like she got pregnant 3 months after our divorce, after we split, and then pretty
I
much
didn't say
within
that
a,
out loud. But really,
I
I said, "Oh
know,
my gosh, yeah, that's amazing."
within like a few weeks after we divorced, and then we finalized divorce, they were like officially married after that. So,
Wow.
um, whole thing. Anyways, but like I was saying, what I really realized is that you have to be fully present. You have to be all in. You have to understand your kids. You have to understand like take the time to learn. Take the time to learn about children and psychology. Read blogs, find podcasts, um, and find things that will help you process. I read a lot of audiobooks and things like that. But I would say probably the most important things I learned is put your fucks where they need to go. Put your fucks in the right buckets. And um, the book that I read that went with this is it has an orange cover. Is it what's that book called? Is it not what is it called? It has an orange cover. It's by the same author that wrote Unfuck Yourself. It's Gary John
Oh,
Bishop. Um, oh my gosh. Basically, I don't know where my book is. Anyways,
Well, you can put it
um,
in the chat. I mean, in the info of the
yeah, I'll have to
post.
because I love this book. But basically, the book itself was put your fucks where they deserve to be put. Put them in the areas and the places where they actually deserve to be. Take them out from where they don't deserve to be. So essentially, what I did is I took them from my ex and from that relationship, took all my fucks there, everything there. And this is an independent podcast. I press the explicit. So if you just heard all that,
Yeah,
then I'm sorry. It was there. There is an E by the title. um,
you missed that. Sorry.
sorry about it, but you take them from where they don't deserve to be. You take them and you put them over here where they deserve to be. And then you also go back and you reevaluate. Why do I give so many fucks about work? Work needs two fucks. I put two fucks there. I take the other eight fucks out, kind of thing, just to
No.
give it an analogy. But
Yeah.
you understand you have to reevaluate. And you start asking yourself why. Ask yourself why more. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I reacting this way? Why? You constantly question yourself in a way that you start to understand, oh, that's why I feel this way, or that's why I'm doing this, or why am I doing this? Why am I reacting this way? Like I'm being ridiculous right now. Um, so those are a
And
bunch of things that
how are you doing in your process with that at 2 years in? How's your fuckability?
uh,
Are you still getting
uh,
fucked with, or have you learned to detach from her pretty much?
I've learned to detach, where I don't, it's,
I
there's
mean,
some
I don't
days
think
where
you'll
it's,
ever get over it. That's people ask me. I've been divorced 13 years, and they're like, "Well, when are you going to get over your divorce?" And I'm like, "What? That's not even the right question." I'm still. I can get mad in about 30 seconds when I think about all the time I lost with my kids and the opportunity. Time is the currency, and the years between 10 and 20 that I lost with my son and 7 and whatever,
mhm.
I'll never get that back, and that was the choice of someone that, went against anyway, there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah, and I
And
think
I
it's
can
so
still be
crazy
angry
that
about it.
I'm
Yeah.
just so grateful that I wasn't in the situation to where, you know, because it's really true. It's a sad reality. I'm getting ready to write about this. I just haven't figured out the best way to go about it. But um, some kids are fatherless because their mother wanted to prove a point.
Hmm.
It's so often that there's a mother, and not to take jabs at any mothers out there, because I know there's a lot of great moms, and I know there's a lot of moms who are using their kids as leverage. For those kids,
Yeah.
those moms that are using their kids as leverage, that have a very capable, willing, and able co-parent who didn't do anything wrong in the situation, and you're using the kids as leverage, you can get fucked. Because that's fucked up. You're hurting your kids to prove a point, and and it sucks because it's hurting the kids and these parents, and it goes both ways. There's dads that are also in that situation
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're trying to prove a point, and I see it all the time. I'm in so many dads groups, and they're like, "Huh, got the bitch now, got her now." Look at these text messages I got, posting screenshots and posting all these things about their kids' mothers and shit like that. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, that's not the point. Like, you are
Right.
missing the point. Like, yes, use that when you have to use it, but don't celebrate that like it's a huge win, because you're creating a toxic attachment here. You're creating just something, so you're giving too many fucks. Um, like, take it for what it is, take it with a grain of salt and move the fuck on. You obviously
Yeah.
haven't moved on yet. So, and I found the book. The book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
Oh, Manson. Yeah. That
So
was
I
going to be
love
my guess.
love this book. I just remembered it was orange. Um, but for you, John, in all your time and everything you've learned from going from the why can't I think of it now? The
The
bad
off parent.
parent, was it the
The
off
off
parent?
parent.
I drew a blank
Yeah.
there. From the off parent to the whole parent to today. Fast forward. What is kind of your overarching umbrella piece of advice? If you had one umbrella
Yeah.
piece of advice, what is it?
Yeah, and that's what I it was funny, and in the early moments of blogging about it in the off parent, I actually came up with the idea of the whole parent, but it took me another year to actually realize it was a thing. But what I realized, we were at the beach. I had taken my kids to the beach as a single dad for the first time. So it was the first time I was there with two young kids. I'm out on the beach, they're digging. I'm laying out there listening to music. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm here alone. And normally we would come to the beach as a couple, and I'd be
Mm-hmm.
out there like this, and I'd be able to go in and take a nap, and she'd stay out with the kids. And I'm like, oh, so I have to grow back up from this diminished person into the whole parent and take over the half that is no longer with me. I
Mm-hmm.
have to do both sides. And that was
Yes.
the idea of the whole parent. So if you can focus on your children, focus on yourself and your love of your children, you can let go of your ex and build a better life for you and your kids, regardless of where she goes and what she does. Even in my case, where you have an unwilling and antagonistic co-parent, you can still I still won. I may have lost all the battles along the way, but I am still really connected to my two children. And that's still one of the most important, it is the most important thing in my life. And so I won. I get the gold star at the end. Where she is with them, is none of my business, right? Whether they like
Yeah.
her or don't like
Doesn't.
her, or we've got our lives together and we're going to be together forever. You can't, if you got kids, you can't ever really divorce that person. And
Yeah.
so you need to put them in the container where they belong and focus on yourself and your relationship to your kids and let everything else go. Let everything else go. It's really
Yeah.
hard,
It is.
but everything else has to go.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, John, the people can find more of you on Twitter at jmac of Earth. They can find you on Instagram at John. I still don't know how to say your last name. Uh,
McElhenney?
yes, that. That's JohnMcElhenney. They can find you on Facebook at by searching Whole Parent, and then they can find you on your website, thewholeparentbook.com, which has all your amazing links, all your everything. I'll also link in the show notes just your link in bio, your link tree thingy, as well.
Yeah.
And that's a quick way to find you on all these different platforms and everything. But John, again, thank you so much for coming on. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure
it's been
talking to
great.
you. It was fun. A lot of
Thank
great little tidbits here. Um, so yeah, again, thank you so much. It's been appreciated.
yeah.
It was fun talking to you.
Yeah, let me know when it's up and I'll socialize it through all my networks as well.
Oh, of course, you'll be the first to know.
Cool, man. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Have a good morning.